I can't say I noticed something specific in one moment. It all started with small things I initially brushed off. Jane started coming home later, explaining it as work piling up. She used to send me messages during the day, asking how my day went, reminding me to buy bread on the way home. But now her replies were shorter, rarer, as if there was tension she tried to hide. I told myself it was normal. Fatigue, the season, stress. But one morning when Jane left before me, I noticed a faint trace of a perfume on her neck that she had never worn before. It was subtle, unexpected, and not mine. I didn't give it much thought yet, or, to be honest, I didn't want to. I never considered myself suspicious. But that day when Jane left her laptop open on the table, I accidentally saw a notification, messages not meant for my eyes. My heart pounded, but something urged me to look. What I saw hit harder than I could imagine. Tender messages, secret meetings, laughter that used to belong only to us, all existing alongside our perfect life. I closed the laptop, trying to convince myself it wasn't real. But the silence that suddenly filled the room was louder than any words. I couldn't stay silent anymore. That evening, when Jane returned home, I waited for her in the kitchen, trying to gather my thoughts. My heart was pounding as if it wanted to leap from my chest. "Jane, we need to talk," I said quietly but firmly. She froze as if sensing it, and in her eyes flickered something I had never seen before. "About what?" she muttered, trying to smile, but the smile faltered. I showed her the laptop screen and spoke the truth. I had seen the messages. She was silent at first. Then her voice trembled as she tried to explain, claiming it was a mistake, empty emotions, that it meant nothing. But I saw every word as a knife to my chest, and at that moment I realized our life would never be the same again. That night I barely slept. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring into the darkness, trying to make sense of what had just happened. My chest ached, my mind raced with questions I couldn't answer. Why? When? How long? I felt anger and confusion, resentment and sorrow, all at once. Every corner of our apartment, every object seemed filled with someone else's presence. I looked at our photos together and felt memory betray me. It had all been an illusion. Then came a strange feeling, emptiness. In that void there was no anger, no accusation, only bitter truth. And I realized I would have to live with it, somehow, gradually. The days after that evening dragged on slowly, as if even the clock sympathized with my state. I noticed every movement of Jane, every word she said, and everything felt foreign. Her usual habits, once comforting, now reminded me I had been deceived. I tried to find explanations in myself. Had I not paid enough attention? Had I failed as a husband? But my mind refused to accept these excuses. The truth was simple and harsh. The trust I had built for 5 years was broken. And with that clarity came a strange relief. I realized that now I had to make a decision. Stay in this painful whirlpool or step out and reclaim some part of myself. I sat alone on the couch staring at an empty cup of coffee, thinking about the future. Everything that had once seemed obvious now felt fragile. I knew I had to act quickly, or the pain would stretch on for years. The first thing I decided on was honesty. I could no longer pretend nothing had happened, neither to myself nor to Jane. I needed to talk to her again, this time with a clear mind, knowing that any excuse would no longer hold power. I began weighing my options, trying to save the marriage if she was willing to be fully truthful and change, or separating to regain control over my life. And the more I thought, the clearer it became. The decision had to be mine, not dictated by circumstances. I met Jane face to face again. This time I spoke calmly, but with determination. "Jane, I know the truth. I have to decide how to live from here. I want to understand if there's anything between us worth saving." She fell silent, tears shining in her eyes. She admitted she had made a mistake, that she regretted it and wanted to make things right. But words couldn't erase nights of doubt, days of anxiety and broken trust. I understood that love is not just feelings, but also boundaries, respect, and honesty. After long reflection, I told myself, if we want to continue, everything must start anew. from scratch, without secrets or excuses. After our conversation, I felt both relief and anxiety. We decided to give our marriage another chance, but only under the condition of complete transparency. Jane agreed, and we started with small steps. Open conversations, time together without phones, rebuilding trust through actions, not words. Each day was a test. I learned to notice changes in her, to analyze my feelings, to distinguish genuine efforts from old habits. Sometimes I wanted to give up, sometimes anger took over, but slowly I felt that something living could emerge between us again. I realized recovery is impossible without effort and honesty with oneself. That awareness became the first stone on the path to a new beginning. Not even a week had passed when old emotions resurfaced. I caught myself suspecting every glance and word from Jane. Memories of the messages sometimes flared up, and a thought would creep in. What if it happens again? Every morning I checked myself. Could I forgive? Could I trust again? There were moments I wanted to give up, thinking the pain was too deep to heal. Yet there were rare moments of real connection. Her sincere care, my genuine response, our shared silence that needed no justification. I realized recovery is not a straight path. It's a winding road where a step back can be part of moving forward. Gradually, we began to notice results from our efforts. Jane no longer hid her plans, no longer disappeared for long hours without explanation. I began seeing her attempts in little things, notes of apology, smiles, unexpected gestures of care. The sense of control over my life slowly returned. We again chose films together, discussed books, laughed at old jokes. Every small step, from an honest conversation to a shared dinner, proved that trust could be rebuilt if both are willing. And though the wounds remained, I felt for the first time in a long while that we might be able to build something real again. Despite all efforts, one day I faced a wave of doubts again. Old resentments rose unexpectedly. I caught myself comparing Jane to her past version, to the person who had betrayed me. My trust wavered, and I realized a single wrong word or look could destroy our fragile progress. In this storm of emotions, I finally admitted to myself, recovery is not about instant forgiveness. It's about patience, daily work, and the ability to let go of the past. Even when the heart still aches, I decided that no matter how long the process took, the key was to keep moving forward, not stopping. One evening, Jane and I sat down and spoke openly. Without excuses or half-truths, I told her I was willing to continue, but only if we were both fully honest and committed to self-improvement. She agreed, her eyes shining with sincerity, and for the first time in a long time, I felt that something real could emerge between us. I took the decisive step, letting go of old pain and allowing myself to trust again. It wasn't instant relief, but a quiet awareness that life moves on, and the choice is always mine. At that moment, I realized sometimes love is not just a feeling, but a conscious decision that requires courage and strength. Over time, I began to realize how much I had learned about myself and life. During those difficult months, I understood that trust is fragile, but incredibly valuable, something that must be protected. I learned that forgiveness doesn't come instantly, and love is not only emotions, but daily work, the willingness to see someone fully, with all their flaws. I became more attentive to my feelings, to the signals I once ignored. I learned to ask questions on time, to accept the truth, however bitter. Most importantly, I understood. You cannot live in illusions, but you can build a new reality if you have the desire and the strength to move forward. I often think about how many people face similar betrayal and suffer in silence. If I could say something to my past self, I would say, don't close your eyes to the signs. Speak openly about your feelings, and don't be afraid to seek the truth. It's important to remember that relationships are not only about shared joys, but also about enduring hardships together, without illusions. Forgiveness and rebuilding trust require courage, patience, and honesty with oneself and your partner. Sometimes the best path is to give a chance. Sometimes to let go, but above all, respect yourself. These lessons became more valuable to me than any other experience. I realized, even through pain, one can emerge stronger and wiser. Looking back now, I see those 5 years differently. Yes, they were filled with happiness and love, but also betrayal and trials. Yet I am grateful for every moment, every lesson, every pain that taught me to value honesty. In the power of trust, I understood that love is a choice, not just a feeling. Sometimes the hardest path is the one leading to yourself, through betrayal, doubt, and the fear of losing everything you hold dear. If someone finds themselves in a similar situation, I would say, don't be afraid to face the truth. Don't be afraid to forgive or let go. But above all, take care of yourself, because only your strength determines whether this story becomes a lesson that strengthens you or a heavy memory that weighs you down. And may every step forward be your own choice, honest, brave, and conscious.